Hello, Squirrel Tribe. So listen, it blows my mind how sick some people are and how selfish some people are. So there's this couple in West Virginia, this guy and this woman, they're in their early 60s, and they've been adopting children. And when you hear that, you think to yourself, oh, that's great. To give a parentless child a home is amazing. And they've adopted at least 5 children. And you're like, man, good for them. I love that. Except for it's not exactly as nice as it seems. So this couple in West Virginia, they are being charged with basically trafficking their adopted black children to be used as slaves. This is according to authorities. This older white couple, well, let me show you there. She doesn't look too happy to be taking a mugshot there. But this older white couple, the lady 63, the lady 62, the guy 63, Gene Whitefeather and Donald Lance in West Virginia have been adopting black children. They've adopted 5 black children, and for the purpose of using them as labor around their farm. And that sounds bad, but at the same time, people are going, well, is it really labor or is it chores? But people want to make a race issue out of everything these days. You have a white couple adopting black children, and they're asking these black children to do chores. You know, it's not exactly the modern day slavery. It's kids having to do chores, right? That's what a lot of people would want to say. Except for the fact that this couple also made these children sleep in a barn, literally in a barn. They were not allowed in the main house. The main house, that sounds real plantation style, but they weren't allowed in the house. They were only allowed to stay in the barn. They had to work all the time. And that to me doesn't exactly scream loving home and people who wanted to adopt children to show them that people care and love them and give them the best of everything, right? So according to this article, this is actually from Yahoo News on CNN via Yahoo News, right? It says here, 2 West Virginia parents, which I don't really know if you can use the word parent in the same paragraph where you're going to say child slavery and child trafficking. Not exactly parents at that point. They are just 2 people who happen to have children in their possession, which sounds just as bad as it's supposed to sound. It says here they are awaiting trial on more than a dozen charges after adopting 4 black children and allegedly using them for forced labor on their farm. Now, I read that they had 5 children earlier, but maybe that was a different article that I was thinking of, because there's a lot of people, a lot of parents right now in the news for doing some shady, underhanded things to their children. There's a couple, I think they're out of Georgia, who just got caught trying to sex traffic their 2-year-old daughter, trying to sell their 2-year-old daughter online for sex. What evil presence is in these people that they think this is how children are supposed to be treated? It is absolutely disgusting, which is why I say it takes a village. It takes a village. If I see somebody's kids out and about, I'm paying attention to those kids. People out there will say, well, they're not yours. Why are you paying attention? Worry about your own. No, because then this is how you end up with these kids in these horrific situations when you're not paying attention or keeping an eye out on everybody else. I miss the days of all the kids riding bikes in the neighborhood, dropping them in one person's front yard, but everybody knew where everybody was. Everybody looked out for everybody. You could go into any of your friends' houses and the parents were going to feed you. They're going to let your parents know where you were, all this other stuff. Now, it's not like that anymore. It feels like literally the good old days, like the greatest parts about America are just slowly fading away, and you're hearing more and more about horrific people like this. And a YouTuber, we're going to get to that in a second. This YouTuber who's also, in my opinion, absolute trash for what she did to her adopted son. But okay, so this here says, the way they phrase this article, again, it makes it seem like it's mostly about race, but at the end of the day, it's about children being abused by people who are supposed to protect them, all right? So Gene Whitefeather, 62, and Donald Lance, 63, who are both white, have been charged with human trafficking of children, civil rights violations, use of a minor child in forced labor, and child neglect, according to the 17-count indictment. They needed to point out that they were white, because in the beginning, they point out they've adopted 4 black children. So they want you to go ahead and have that image of racial difference between the parents and the children. I mean, if you look at a bunch of celebrities these days, you have Angelina Jolie adopting a black daughter. I think she adopted a Cambodian son. Sandra Bullock has adopted a black child. Plenty of other celebrities are adopting children. And most children that are being adopted by celebrities or by regular everyday folk like you and I, unfortunately, aren't white children because it costs so much money to give a child a home here in the United States. It is cheaper for people to go to other countries, whether it's somewhere in Africa, whether it's somewhere in Europe, whether it's somewhere in Asia. It's cheaper to go to other countries and adopt a child there and bring them back than it is to adopt your own nationality in your own country, which is absolutely ridiculous because it's all about money to our government. That's all it's about. It's not about giving these children an actual home and love and stability. It's about how much money can the government put in its back pocket because, as we say here on Squirrel Tribe, profit over people. Literally the exact representation of profit over people. They would rather have your money than, the child and whatever else. But okay, let me get back to this. So Madison Tuck, this is the assistant prosecuting attorney for Kanawha County in West Virginia, told CNN on Wednesday the trial is set to begin on September 9th. So the trial will be coming up soon for these two parents and their trafficking, right? Now, the children are all safe. They're not telling any news media outlets where the children have been placed, where they are, which is smart. It says here that Lance and Whitefeather entered a not guilty plea on June 11th at their arraignment. Their attorney told CNN that his clients are absolutely emphatically denying the allegations that they were just doing their chores. It wasn't a slave issue or using them for slave labor or child trafficking or anything like that. They just had to do their chores. Just because they had to sleep in a barn and weren't allowed inside the house doesn't mean anything. That's what you do when you do chores, right? Yeah, okay. We're talking about two parents who adopted 5 black children. So that's where I got the 5 from. 4 of them are being said that they were being used for child labor, but they did adopt 5 children, okay? So they adopted 5 black children, has cared for them for the last 8 years. They've had these children for 8 years, and this is going to come out at trial. We'll let the jury decide at the end of the day, but we absolutely, emphatically deny the allegations. Now, during the arraignment, 13th Judicial Circuit Judge Mary Claire Akers said, "I don't think I've ever seen an indictment like this in all of my life." Horrific, right? It says here that Akers is referring to the indictment that alleges the children were targeted because of their race to be used as basically slaves. There will be people out there who will say, no, they didn't target them. They didn't get black children because of, they wanted them to be slaves because they were black. I mean, it's absolutely possible. There are still people running around here who would put on a white robe and a white hat and burn a cross if, it wasn't frowned upon as much as it is. There are still people who have that backwards hillbilly dipshit mentality. And it sounds like these people are those kind of people. But the fact to put money out to then do what they had to do to adopt the children and everything else, that part to me is weird. Stupid, idiotic. I don't know the right phrase for it, but it doesn't make sense to spend that kind of money to adopt a child, to turn around and be racist and, just absolutely awful. So according to, now this is of course, innocent until proven guilty, all that fun stuff. CNN obtained court documents related to the case. It says it began in October of 2023. When I just clicked a button and got out of my notes here. Hold on one second because slow. All right. So it began in 2023 when Kanawha County Sheriff's deputies responded to a 911 call raising concerns about the children. So somebody did pay attention and called 911. CNN requested a copy of the call, but authorities have declined to release it. You have to assume because they'll be using it in the court case itself. So they don't want it already on the news and things like that, which makes sense to me. And I keep messing this thing up. If I was editing, that would be great, but we're not. So we're just going to keep it trucking, my dudes. The 911 caller reported the children were made to do farm work and not allowed inside the house, according to a sworn statement from the deputy who responded to the call. A news release from the sheriff's office noted that deputies had to force entry into the barn where they located a juvenile male and juvenile female locked inside an approximate 20 by 14 foot room. The children had no means to exit the barn on their own, no running water, no bathroom facilities, and were obviously deprived of adequate hygienic care and food. Doesn't really sound like loving parents, once again. According to the deputy's sworn statement, the female juvenile also stated that she and her 14-year-old brother were not allowed inside the house. There was no accessible window in the room or any way for the children to exit. If there were a medical emergency or fire, the children would be unable to exit the locked room to safety. When Whitefeather and Lance arrived hours later, the deputy wrote, Mrs. Whitefeather made the admission to Detective Alford that the children were left in the shed, but stated they like it. So highly delusional. Got it. Got it. Now, an affidavit from the lieutenant in the sheriff's office indicated the police encounter in October 2023 was preceded by 2 other concerned 911 calls about the well-being of the children. Both the callers, between May and June of 2023, told dispatchers that children living there were sleeping in the barn and using a portable toilet outside. Both times, Whitefeather and Lance claimed to responding deputies that they had just moved to the site from Washington State and were using the portable toilet due to plumbing issues in their new home, the statement said. Ms. Whitefeather told the deputies that people in the area don't like them, and vehicles have been stopping on the roadway in front of their residence. This call was cleared with no police action necessary. According to this, a grand jury returned an indictment against Whitefeather and Lance in May that allege, among other things, that the couple did knowingly, feloniously, that's a really hard word to say, and willfully traffic a minor and did recruit, entice, and obtain the victim of the offense from a shelter and facility that serves runaway youth, children in foster care, the homeless, and victims of human trafficking, domestic violence, and sexual assault. The pair are being held on $500,000 cash-only bonds, according to an arraignment order. Side note, that's interesting, cash-only bonds. If, we as a society go to cashless, you'll be stuck in jail for a very, very long time. The whole thing is, this is very concerning because you want children to go to a home. When you see that there's children that are up for adoption, you're thinking to yourself, I wish somebody out there had the means, number one, the money to do it, and the ability and the good heart to adopt these children and show them that there are people out there who are good and will love them and put a roof over their head and food in their bellies and tuck them in at night and have a Christmas, or whatever holiday they celebrate. And then you see stories like this and it's like, man, how hard is it to be just a decent human being? And to continuously lie to the cops and go, oh no, we just moved in. It's a portable toilet. I don't know if cops can do it, but I would have been like, cool. Well, I need to use a restroom. I'm coming inside the house. Let me go check out this non-working toilet. That way we can corroborate your story here. I think that's probably overstepping. I would have overstepped and then probably got a slap on the wrist, but it is what it is. But these people, to only adopt black children, I don't know if that says something, if that's going to be a negative towards them. For a lot of people, that may be considered a positive, anytime you adopt somebody, it's a positive, right? And for some people, they look at adopting people that are of different race or ethnicity or backgrounds or whatever as a positive, because then you're showing that there is no barrier between skin tones or religious beliefs or ethical, that's not right, ethnic backgrounds, right? That's what people think. And it does sound good, right? Until, of course, you realize that more and more often people are adopting outside of their country and then regretting it, okay? So there's this YouTube couple, and they're Micah Stouffer, and her and her husband. In May, the internet blew up when social media influencer Micah Stouffer announced she had rehomed her 5-year-old Chinese-born adopted son Huxley after adopting him 3 years ago. All right, so she adopted this Chinese-born boy named Huxley when he was 2 years old. And once he was 5 years old, she got rid of him. She basically, like taking a dog to a shelter when you're tired of him, or taking your old couch to Goodwill or someplace and donating it. She rehomed. It's not the same as regifting. You get, a snow globe for Christmas and you don't like it, so you rewrap it and regift it to somebody else who might like it better. You don't regift or rehome a child. That's just freaking awful. So according to this, Stouffer and her husband James said the family was unaware of the depths of Huxley's behavior problems and developmental disabilities when they first adopted him and had him rehomed with another family. Now, many fans, of course, lashed out at the Stouffers and accused them of adopting Huxley only to grow their YouTube brand and make money. Do you remember? And I don't know this lady's name because I could not get into her YouTube channel and everything that was going on with her because I would have lost my ever-loving mind. I do not have the ability or the patience to deal with people who are awful to children, and witnessing it firsthand, I would have lost my shit somehow and it would not have been good. But there was the lady on YouTube who's now sitting in jail because she was basically starving her children, and I think one of the children got loose and went to a neighbor and they called the police. Y'all are gonna know her name. Please put it in the comments because I can't think of it. I can picture her and her face just makes me want to like throat punch her. I'm not even gonna lie. But this is the same kind of thing. there are so many people on these platforms, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or whatever, who do things legitimately only to get the views and to make money, right? Who will go out and buy, this is going to be like a stupid one, but go buy a farm, or go buy a tiny home, or go buy some other stuff just to say, hey, look what I can do, and blah, 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 and then get the views and make money and whatever else. And people are doing it with kids. What the crap? Like, this woman and her husband to adopt this 2-year-old boy, have him for 3 years, and then rehome him. Would they have done the same thing if it had been their biological child? If at 2 years old, their biological child had started showing behavioral issues and had whatever, would they have put their biological child up for adoption? Is that how this works? Or is it only because the other one was adopted, they didn't have that same emotional, physical tie, so it was easier for them to treat him like he was just some roadside dog they had picked up, and then once they got tired of him, just to give him away? Once you are a parent, you are a parent. It does not stop just because an issue arises or something. You made that decision, whether it was to have a child or adopt a child. You knowingly, willingly made that decision most of the time. Sometimes having a child is an accident for people, but you're still the parent and you still have to do what you have to do, right? You don't just get to decide, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. That's not how this works. Once you decide, especially to adopt a child, to turn around and get rid of that child, you absolute piece of trash. And people may not agree with me. There may be people watching who have done the same thing, who have adopted a child and rehomed a child. Trash. Just so we're all fully aware. Trash. If there are issues, you get help. You don't just give the child away. It's not a pair of sneakers. It's not a dog. It's not a bicycle or a used lazy boy. It's a human being. What the crap? The farther we go in technology, the farther away we go from morals and common sense and compassion and just being good humans. That's what it feels like. The more things I see on the lovely internet and stories I read like this, the more I'm like, people suck. Like, ooh, people suck. Evil people are running amok and people suck. And I feel horrible for these children who are made to slave labor and live in a barn and pee in a bucket outside the barn because they're not allowed inside the main house. 2024, y'all. 2024. And this is how we're treating children. Black children. Chinese children. I'm sure we're treating white children just as bad. Just those stories don't tend to pop up as often because it doesn't help that divide. You know what I mean? But this is absolute craziness to me. And I hope that the two that are sitting in jail waiting their arraignment, just put them under the jail. That's pretty much where they belong. So I want to know your thoughts on these things. Have you witnessed stuff like this? Have you read these things and know exactly what I'm talking about? Can you think of that YouTube lady who was abusing her children for, like, literally, one of them was like chained up somewhere, got loose and went to a neighbor, and the lady's a blonde lady, and she was supposed to be this like greatest thing ever. I cannot think of her name. Y'all help me out because y'all know this is a community. Let's work together, people. Work together. Listen, Squirrel Tribe, I love y'all immensely. It is finally under 100 degrees outside, so I'm going to go enjoy just walking around my apartment complex to get a little exercise and enjoy the breeze that has kicked in, which is yay. I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your Saturday, my dudes, and I will see you again when I see you. Bye.